The smell of stagnant water, mud, and something vaguely like despair had permanently soaked into my clothes, maybe even my skin. 10 days. 10 brutal, relentless days clawing through the wreckage Hurricane Lydia left along the Gulf Coast. I was a structural engineer, part of a FEMA-adjacent rapid response team. My job wasn't pulling survivors from rubble that was the true heroes. My job was assessing what was left standing, what was a death trap waiting to happen. Marking condemned houses with that awful red spray paint that felt like signing death warrants. It was grim, soul-crushing work, punctuated by moments of profound gratitude when we found a structure sound enough to shelter displaced families or store vital supplies. My body screamed. Every muscle felt like frayed rope, my eyes gritty with fatigue and the omnipresent dust. It just stumbled back to the temporary command center, a repurposed high school gymnasium, smelling faintly of sweat and disinfectant over the pervasive damp. All I wanted was a lukewarm shower from the makeshift stalls and maybe, a solid 3 hours of dreamless sleep on my cot before heading back out at dawn. Then, a hot meal if I was lucky. But first, a lifeline. My iPad, connected to the sketchy but functional satellite Wi-Fi, was my sole connection to the world before Lydia. The world that included Rose, my wife. Wed video called earlier, a stilted, fragmented conversation. She'd looked tired, distracted. She worked PR for a mid-sized firm, and while her city hadn't been hit, the national news cycle was all Lydia all the time. Just swamped, babe, she'd said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You look exhausted. Are you eating? Sleeping? The concern felt perfunctory, distant. I chalked it up to the stress we were both under, the weird dissonance of my reality versus hers. It ended the call feeling lonelier than when it started. Now, collapsing onto my cot, I swiped the iPad awake. Notifications bloomed, news alerts, a few work emails I couldn't face. Then I saw it. The little green bubble icon for messages. Rose must have texted. A small, desperate flicker of warmth ignited in my chest. Maybe she'd sent something sweet, a photo of our dog, Buster, something to remind me of home, of us. My numb fingers fumbled to open the app. It wasn't a text from Rose to me. It was a conversation thread between Rose and a contact saved simply as Josh. And the preview of the latest message, sent barely an hour ago, froze the blood in my veins. Josh, still buzzing from last night. You taste like danger and cheap champagne. Can't wait to do it again. Tomorrow. My place. Sent 8:47 p.m. The world didn't just tilt, it shattered. The roar of generators outside faded into a high-pitched whine. The stench of the gym vanished, replaced by a cold, metallic taste flooding my mouth. My hands, calloused from handling debris, started shaking violently. Taste like danger and cheap champagne. The words burned onto my retinas. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a sledgehammer blow to the foundation of everything I thought was solid. MY thumb, moving on autopilot fueled by a terrifying, morbid need to know, tapped the thread. It opened. And there it was. Not just one message. A cascade. Days and days of them, stretching back almost to the moment it boarded the plane headed into the disaster zone. The early ones were seemingly innocent, work-related. Josh was a colleague, a newish hire at her firm she'd mentioned casually weeks ago. Helping him get up to speed, she'd said. Then the tone shifted. Flirtation, masked as office banter. Compliments that strayed too far. Jokes with an edge. Plans for quick coffee breaks that seemed to stretch. Then, as I was wading through floodwaters helping an elderly couple salvage soggy photo albums, the texts turned explicitly intimate. Not graphically descriptive, but unmistakable in their intent. Rose, Kyle's call was so awkward. Felt like talking to a ghost. You're the only real thing here right now. Josh, tell me about it. My bed feels enormous and empty. Wish you were filling it. Rose, soon. He's stuck in that hellhole for at least another week. Plenty of time for distractions. Josh, distractions are my specialty. Especially when they involve you and that black lace thing. Each message was a fresh puncture wound. I scrolled faster. A frantic, sickening archaeology of my own betrayal. Photos started appearing. Rose, grinning at a restaurant I didn't recognize, a half-empty wine glass in front of her. Josh's arm casually draped over the back of her chair. Another, blurrier, taken in what looked like a dimly lit bar, their heads closed together. Then, one that stopped my breath entirely. Rose, clearly in Josh's apartment. I recognized the hideous abstract painting. Had once shown her on a video call Shed taken in our living room, wearing my college hoodie, the one I'd packed, but couldn't find before I left. She was smiling sleepily at the camera. The timestamp to 17 a.m. 2 nights ago, when Shed told me she was crashing early with a headache. The messages confirmed the rest. The late client dinners. The girls' nights that were clearly just covers. The networking drinks with Josh. It was all laid bare in cruel, digital clarity. The planning, the excitement, the utter disregard for me, for our vows, for the life we'd built while I was literally digging people out of the mud. The physical exhaustion was obliterated by a white-hot rage, so intense it was paralyzing. Then came the nausea, a tidal wave that had me stumbling towards the gym's restroom, barely making it to a stall before I retched. Nothing but bile and bitterness coming up. I slumped against the cold metal partition, the iPad still clutched in my hand like a live grenade. The screen showed another message from Josh. Josh, seriously though, tomorrow. Need my fix. You're addictive. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive my fist through the wall. I wanted to call her right then and unleash the torrent of agony and fury ripping me apart. But the image of her face, the face I'd loved for 8 years, since we met as wide-eyed interns, flickered in my mind. The face that had laughed with me, cried with me, promised me forever. Now it was the face that lied, that kissed another man while I was here, covered in the grime of human suffering. A different kind of strength, cold and hard, seeped into my bones. Not yet. Not here, surrounded by the tangible wreckage of one disaster, while my personal one detonated silently inside me. I needed to be away from this place, away from the sympathetic eyes of my team, away from the constant reminder of destruction. I needed to face her. I needed answers that I already had, but needed to hear from her traitorous mouth. Somehow, I stood. Somehow, I washed my face in the grimy sink, the water shockingly cold. I looked in the cracked mirror. My eyes were bloodshot, haunted. I looked like one of the survivors we pulled from collapsed buildings, shell-shocked, hollow. I walked back to my cot on legs made of lead. The iPad felt radioactive. I closed the message thread, but the words were seared into my brain. Sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the texts. Saw Rose laughing with Josh. Saw her wearing my hoodie in his apartment. Heard the phantom echo of her voice telling me she loved me, missed me, was proud of me. The hypocrisy was suffocating. I lay there in the semi-darkness of the crowded gym, listening to the snores and restless movements of my exhausted colleagues, feeling utterly, profoundly alone. The camaraderie, the shared purpose that had been a lifeline these past days, evaporated. I was an island of betrayal in a sea of shared struggle. The next morning, I moved through my duties like an automaton. I assessed structures, dictated reports, sprayed red X's on unstable walls, my voice flat and devoid of inflection. My team leader, Dave, a grizzled veteran of dozens of disasters, clapped me on the shoulder during a water break. Rough night, Kyle. You look like hell warmed over, more than usual. His eyes held genuine concern. I forced a smile that felt like cracking ice. Just the cumulative hit, Dave. Seeing so much loss gets to you after a while. It wasn't entirely a lie. The loss I was grappling with was just profoundly personal. Yeah, Dave sighed, rubbing his beard. It does. Remember why we're here, though. These folks, he gestured towards a family sorting through salvaged belongings nearby, their faces etched with grief, but also determination. They've lost everything. We're helping them start over. That's the light, son. Hold on to that. Hold on to that. The irony was a knife twist. I was losing everything too, but my wreckage was invisible. I nodded mutely, unable to meet his eyes. My why had just vaporized. Helping strangers rebuild while my own home was collapsing felt like a sick cosmic joke. The hours dragged. Every notification chime on my phone or iPad sent a jolt of adrenaline through me, a Pavlovian dread that it was her, spinning another lie, or worse, him, gloating. But she didn't call. She texted once, crazy busy day. Hope you're holding up okay. Love you. The casualness, the utter normalcy of it, after what I knew, was its own special kind of torture. Love you. The words were ashes in my mouth. I didn't reply. I needed out. I found Dave later, pulling him aside near the supply trucks. Dave, I need to tap out. Personal emergency. Back home. My voice sounded alien, strained. His brow furrowed. Everything okay? Family. Rose. Just her name triggered a fresh wave of nausea. Yeah, Rose. Something's come up. Urgent. I couldn't elaborate. The shame, the humiliation, was a physical weight. He studied my face for a long moment. Saw the strain I couldn't hide, the haunted look. Disaster responders see a lot of broken people. He recognized the signs, even if he misread the cause. He probably thought it was a death in the family, a serious illness. He nodded slowly, compassion in his eyes. Say no more, son, go. Take care of what you need to. We've got it covered here. You've pushed hard. Just get some rest when you can, okay? And good luck. Thanks, Dave. I managed, the gratitude genuine, even if misplaced. For everything. Getting a flight out was its own special hell. Delays. Overbooked planes. Every minute trapped in an airport terminal or crammed into a middle seat was excruciating. I was surrounded by people returning to normalcy, 2 loved ones, 2 lives untouched by catastrophe. I felt like a ghost walking among them, carrying my invisible storm. I reread the message thread countless times, torturing myself with the details. The plans they made. The jokes about me being oblivious, stuck in hurricane purgatory. The nicknames. He called her Wild Rose. She called him Trouble. The sheer intimacy of their shared secret, their shared contempt for me and our marriage. The flight landed in the familiar haze of my home city. The air was clean, dry. No smell of decay. It felt alien, wrong. I grabbed my duffel bag, still smelling faintly of mud and mildew, and hailed a cab. The drive through the familiar streets felt surreal. Everything looked the same, yet irrevocably changed. The park where we walked Buster. The cafe where we had Sunday brunch. The turn onto our street. Our house, bathed in the late afternoon sun, looked peaceful, welcoming. A lie. I paid the cab driver, my hand still trembling slightly. I stood on the sidewalk for a long moment, looking at our front door. The door he'd carried Rose through on our wedding night. The door Buster always scratched at when he heard us coming home. Now it felt like the entrance to a crime scene. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of dread and rage. I took a deep, shuddering breath. No more delays. No more hiding. I fished my keys from my pocket. The familiar click of the lock echoed loudly in the quiet street. I pushed the door open. The smell of home hit me first, lemon polish, the faint scent of Rose's perfume, Buster's dog bed. Normal, safe, a devastating illusion. Buster came barreling down the hallway, tail wagging furiously, whining with excitement. I dropped to one knee, burying my face in his fur, the first genuine, uncomplicated warmth he'd felt in days. His unconditional love was a lifeline, a tiny anchor in the maelstrom. Hey, buddy, I whispered, my voice thick. Missed you too. Then I heard her. Footsteps coming from the direction of the kitchen. Buster. Who is it, boy? Did the mailman. Her voice cut off as she rounded the corner and saw me. Rose froze. Her eyes, wide with shock, flew from me to my duffel bag, then back to my face. She was dressed in yoga pants and an old t-shirt, her hair pulled back. She looked beautiful. She looked like home. And the sight of her, knowing what she'd done, knowing the lies that had just been on her lips, ignited the fury I'd been desperately trying to contain. Kyle. Her voice was high, strained. What are you doing here? I thought you said at least another week. Panic flickered across her features, quickly masked by a forced smile. Is everything okay? Did something happen? I straightened up slowly, keeping Buster close. The iPad was in my other hand. I held it up, not saying a word. I just tapped the screen, waking it up, and held it out towards her, the open message thread with Josh displayed. The damning words, "You taste like danger," and "cheap champagne." Her face drained of color. All pretense vanished, replaced by pure, unadulterated terror. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh God. Kyle, I can explain. Explain. The word came out flat, devoid of inflection, colder than I intended. It was all I could manage. The white-hot rage had condensed into something glacial, dangerous. Explain this, Rose. I gestured at the iPad. Explain 10 days of lies. Explain Wild Rose. Explain wearing my hoodie in his apartment at 2 a.m. Explain tasting like danger and cheap champagne. My voice rose slightly on the last phrase, the absurd, cruel poetry of it finally breaking through the numbness. She flinched as if struck. Tears welled in her eyes instantly, spilling over. It wasn't like that. It just happened. Things were so hard with you gone. I was lonely, stressed with work. Josh was just there. The excuses tumbled out, rehearsed and pathetic. Lonely. I took a step closer. Buster whined softly, sensing the tension, pressing against my leg. I was wading through sewage, Rose. Sleeping in a gym. Trying to help people who lost everything. And you were lonely. So lonely you jumped into bed with the first guy who paid you attention. The image of Josh's arm around her chair flashed in my mind. How long? How long has this been going on? Since before I left? Was helping him get up to speed code for this? My voice was low, trembling with the effort to not scream. No. God, no. It started after you left. Just talking. Then I don't know. It escalated. She was sobbing now. Genuine tears, but they only fueled my disgust. Were they tears of remorse or just tears of being caught? It meant nothing, Kyle. It was a stupid mistake. A moment of weakness. A moment. I barked a harsh, humorless laugh. 10 days of texts, Rose. Photos. Plans for tomorrow. That's not a moment. That's a fucking affair. That's you choosing him, over and over again. While I was out there, my voice cracked. I gestured helplessly, encompassing the impossible distance between the flooded streets it just left and this pristine living room that now felt like a tomb. While I was thinking about you, worrying about you, missing you. The full weight of the betrayal crashed down on me then. The exhaustion from the disaster zone, the emotional devastation of the discovery, the sleepless flight, it all coalesced into a wave of such profound weariness it threatened to buckle my knees. The rage was still there, a simmering undercurrent, but it was momentarily drowned out by an overwhelming sense of grief. Grief for the woman I thought I knew. Grief for the marriage I thought we had. Grief for the future that had just been obliterated. Nothing. I repeated her word, my voice barely a whisper now. It meant nothing? Then why, Rose? Why risk everything? Why lie? Why betray me like this? I needed to understand the unfathomable. Was it boredom? Was I not enough? Was the lure of the forbiddens just too strong? She wrapped her arms around herself, shrinking in on herself. I don't know. I swear, Kyle, I love you. I never meant to hurt you. It felt exciting. Different. He made me feel seen. Appreciated. You were always so far away. Even before the hurricane, the justification was weak, insulting. Seen. I echoed, incredulous. Appreciated. While I was here, Rose. Building a life with you, providing, loving you. The idea that my dedication, my absence for a job helping others, was somehow the catalyst for her infidelity was a poison pill. So, my crime was caring. Was trying to make a difference? The hypocrisy was staggering. She worked in PR, crafting images and narratives while destroying the reality of ours with such casual cruelty. Her sobs intensified. I'm so sorry. So sorry. Please, Kyle, we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll end it with Josh right now. It's over. I swear. She took a step towards me, hand outstretched pleadingly. I recoiled. The thought of her touch was repulsive. Don't, I said, the word sharp, final. Don't touch me. Don't come near me. Buster whined again, confused, looking between us. The sight of our dog, our innocent, loving dog, caught in the middle of this human ugliness, was the final straw. The carefully constructed dam holding back my emotions broke. Tears I hadn't shed since the first horrific days after the hurricane hit finally spilled over. Not loud, wrenching sobs, but silent, hot tears tracking paths through the grime still embedded in the creases of my face. Tears of exhaustion, of profound loss, of utter disillusionment. Fix this. My voice was thick, broken. How, Rose? How do you fix this? I gestured again at the iPad, then around our home. You broke it. You shattered it. You didn't just cheat on me. You cheated while I was neck deep in the aftermath of a disaster. You made a mockery of everything I was doing, everything I thought we were. The image of the red spray paint on condemned houses flashed in my mind. Our marriage felt exactly like that, structurally unsound, dangerous, needing to be marked for demolition. The trust, it's gone. Obliterated. Like those houses back there. There's no rebuilding on this foundation. The finality in my voice seemed to finally penetrate her panic. Her pleading expression shifted to something harder, defensive. So that's it? After 8 years? You just walk away? Over one mistake? One mistake? The rage flared again, hot and bright. It wasn't a mistake, Rose. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. A mistake is leaving the lights on. This was a choice. A series of deliberate, calculated choices. Choices you made every single day I was gone. Every text you sent him instead of me. Every lie you told. Every time you kissed him, touched him while telling me you loved me. I was shaking, the iPad trembling in my hand. That's not a mistake. That's who you are. And I don't know that person. Silence descended, heavy and suffocating. The only sounds were her ragged breathing, my own shaky breaths, and Buster's low, anxious whine. The comfortable familiarity of our living room felt like a stage set after the play had ended, revealing the cheap props and painted backdrops. The life we'd built here was an illusion, shattered by the ugly truth glowing on the tablet screen. "Where's your stuff?" I asked, my voice unnervingly calm now, the eye passing over my personal hurricane. "Your go bag. Your toiletries." Her eyes widened in fresh panic. "What? Why? You need to leave, now." The words were absolute. "Go to your sister's. Go to a hotel. Go to Josh's. I don't care. But you are not staying here tonight. Kyle, please. You can't just kick me out." Her voice rose, tinged with indignation now. "I can. And I am." I met her gaze, my own devoid of the love that had always softened it when I looked at her. Now there was only cold certainty, the clarity that comes after the initial shockwave passes, revealing the utter devastation. "This is my house too. And right now, I can't breathe the same air as you. Get out." We stood locked in a silent battle of wills for what felt like an eternity. The terrified, remorseful wife warring with the defensive, cornered cheater in her eyes. Finally, the fight seemed to drain out of her. Her shoulders slumped. She looked defeated, broken. But I felt no pity, only a profound weariness and the imperative to remove the source of the poison from my space. "Fine," she whispered, the word barely audible. She turned and walked stiffly down the hallway towards our bedroom. Our former bedroom. I sank onto the arm of the sofa, the one we'd picked out together, arguing good-naturedly about the color. Buster immediately clambered up beside me, resting his head heavily on my thigh, offering silent, furry comfort. I buried my fingers in his fur, focusing on the simple, grounding sensation. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion and a cavernous emptiness where my heart used to be. I heard drawers opening and closing, the sound of a zipper. The mundane sounds of packing felt obscene, a brutal counterpoint to the seismic shift that had just occurred. She emerged a short while later, dragging a small suitcase and holding a tote bag. Her eyes were red-rimmed, puffy, avoiding mine. I'll call you tomorrow," she said, her voice small. "Don't." The word was flat. Final. "Don't call. Don't text. Not until I decide if I ever want to speak to you again. And right now, Rose, that feels like a very long time. Maybe never." The thought of hearing her voice, listening to more excuses, more pleas, more lies, was unbearable. She flinched, fresh tears welling. She opened her mouth, perhaps to argue, perhaps to apologize again, but seemed to think better of it. With a last, lost look around the home shed just destroyed, she turned, opened the front door, and stepped out into the twilight. The door clicked shut behind her with a sound of terrible finality. The silence that followed was immense, oppressive. Buster whined softly, looking towards the door, then back at me, his brown eyes full of canine confusion and worrying. I pulled him closer, burying my face in his neck again, breathing in his familiar, comforting dog smell. The tears came again, silent and relentless this time. Not just for Rose, but for the death of the future I'd envisioned, for the shattering of trust, for the sheer, brutal unfairness of it all. It walked towards literal disaster zones to help, only to find the true disaster waiting for me at home, meticulously constructed in my absence. I sat there for a long time, clinging to my dog, the sole innocent casualty in this mess. The faint scent of lemon polish and Rose's perfume still hung in the air, a cruel reminder of the normalcy that was gone forever. Outside, the world continued. Cars drove by. Neighbors walked their dogs. Life went on. Inside this house, within my chest, a different kind of wreckage lay scattered. The recovery operation for this disaster was just beginning, and it promised to be long, painful, and utterly solitary. The storm had passed, leaving only the desolate, unrecognizable landscape of betrayal. I looked down at my left hand, at the simple platinum band it'd worn for 5 years. It felt like a shackle now, a symbol of a lie. With numb fingers, I twisted it off. It came surprisingly easily. I held it in my palm for a moment, the metal cool and heavy with dead promises. Then, without ceremony, I walked to the kitchen trash can and dropped it in. The soft clink it made against the empty coffee grounds was the sound of a chapter ending. The only sound left was the echo of my own broken heart and the quiet, reassuring snuffle of the dog who, blessedly, asked no questions and offered only unwavering love. The long, desolate road through the ruins of us stretched ahead, dark and uncertain. But for tonight, at least, the immediate danger, the eye of the betrayal, had passed. Now came the grim task of sifting through the rubble.